Flosstube friends. Today is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. My name is Audrey Marine and this is a channel all about cross stitch. As you can see from the title, I have both StitchCon and the Threadworxs fair to cover, and I will get into that in just a little bit. But first I want to share with you my whips and my finishes. I have two finishes, so let me start with that. My first finish since my last regular Flosstube episode is Emma Wright 1904. This is a Hands Across the Sea samplers chart. You can get this right off of the Hats website, but other shops should have it as well. I started this at the end of last year. I picked up the chart at an event last October, and I started it shortly thereafter. I think I started it last November. Got a good amount of progress on it and then kind of put it away. I am stitching it on 46 count light sanditon by Swan Bay Fabrics, and I'm using all the called for 100.3s. This light sanditon, it's just a nice off-white, and I think Emma's colors pop off it really nicely. And you can see there, I added my own little signature that is an A and a 26. I usually add that to pieces that I'm going to have framed. This was a fun piece to stitch. This row of vases and birds was a little bit tedious, a lot of color changes in that, but you know, there wasn't too much of it to slow me down. I really needn't have drawn this piece out as long as I did, but I do love it. It's nice and bright, very colorful. And I think, there we go. I think that is showing pretty true. It looks nice on Marie's fabric. So Emma Wright, available, as I said, for purchase. Put that over here. In September, Lisa Manton, the framer that I use in Batavia, Ohio, that area, she will be back from her summer hiatus up north, so I'll be able to send her several pieces, and that will be one of them. I think I've already got 5 pieces to send to her, and we'll hopefully have more. So there will be a hefty bill, but I'll have a nice amount of new pieces to go on the wall in the fall or wintertime, whenever she gets to them. The next finish I had is Mary Wigglesworth 1812. Now I started this last fall. I think it was in August or September that I started this with my friend Jem, who is Stitchin' Jem here on Flosstube and on Instagram. The piece of fabric that I'm using is actually a gift from her. It's 46 count Thornfield from Needle and Flax. And I think that shows pretty true. The called for, I believe, is Creme Brulee by Tabby Cat, but from what I have seen, Creme Brulee by Tabby Cat is not necessarily consistent. Like the dye lots, some pieces are more dramatic than others. So if you order it, just understand that you're not necessarily going to get the creme brulee that you've seen in this video or that video or in that photo. But it's all beautiful. But this I had in my stash thanks to Jem and knew that it would work well, so I didn't need to order anything. And again, I just used the called for 100.3s. Those are spooled silks from Overa Soie. You've heard me mention them many a time. This is what they look like. You don't have to separate the floss, the thread. You can just use it right off the spool. I was working on this at StitchCon and actually thought I could probably finish it at StitchCon, but I didn't quite make it. We ended up with some other activities that took time away from Mary Wigglesworth, but that's okay because I was able to finish it not the day that I got home, but the next day. I stayed up rather late doing it, but still managed to do it. This band up here is absolutely beautiful. I'm not sure that the camera here is doing it justice, but beautiful bright colors in that band. And this is almost completely stitched cross stitch over 2. There was just one little word here that Mary couldn't quite fit, so she stitched this heart over 1. And rather than use the Swasserfine, which I don't even know if there is a Swasserfine in that particular color, I just used the 103 and did the over 1 for heart right there, and I think it looks nice. I do have a tiny little mistake in here. It's okay, it didn't affect anything else, so I just left it even after I noticed it. It wouldn't have been much work to rip it out and make it right, but this is not a model for anyone. This is just going on my wall, so I left it, and I think that's okay. And I tell you guys this so that if you make a mistake on your sampler, it's okay. As long as it doesn't affect the counting, you know, the placement of anything else, I don't think it really matters. And again, here I put a little A26 for Audrey, finished in 2026. So 2 more pieces to send off to the framer. I love this one. Jules Darling has this finished, and she showed the framed finish in one of her videos earlier this year. Absolutely gorgeous. So as I was finishing this one up, mine up, I was thinking, oh, I get to have it framed like Julie. So pretty, such a beautiful piece. And not really complicated. You know, it doesn't have a ton of colors. It has 12 colors. And these motifs here on the bottom, I mean, they're just a few colors. So if you don't mind counting, there is some complex counting, but if you don't mind counting, but you do just want to work with just a couple colors, you know, Mary Wigglesworth is the girl for you. And even like this motif here, just a few colors. Very simple. The most complicated thing was the band, this floral band here with the berries and the flowers, but absolutely gorgeous. Happy to have Mary done. Okay, so those are my 2 finishes. And then after I finished Mary, I thought, well, I could start something new. Yes, I could always start something new. Every day of the week I could start something new, but that's not me. So I thought, I'm feeling really good about all these finishes that I have. So let's pull out an older whip and give that some time, and then maybe start a new thing. Kind of alternate between newer whips, older whips, and starting things so that I don't just have a bunch of new starts. I looked at my whip list, and it's not overly long, but I'm looking at some of them. I'd really like to have them finished and on my wall. Well, you need to stitch them in order to do that. So long story short, I pulled out the Alexanders of Lintrathen. This is another chart from Hands Across the Sea Samplers. This is an older chart, at least a few years old, because I know that I was gifted this from my mom in 2023, I think it was. And at that time, it was already a couple years old. So you can get this from the Hats website or your local needle workshop or your favorite ONS. This is stitched, even though the cover photo looks like it's stitched on white or ivory, the model is actually stitched on Cocoa by Threadworxs. So I stitched it on dark mocha beige from XJU, which is awesome. I love this color. Okay, that is the color. And these bright, wild colors in this Scottish sampler, perfect on dark mocha beige. So would recommend. Last time you guys saw it, I think I had this done. And then pulling it out again, I continued down. These letters were fun to do with all the curly cues, double running stitch curly cues here as well. And I completely finished this band along the side, and then I was able to get into the people down here. Now this gentleman is all done. Not only is he cross stitch, but there is a lot of running stitch over him, or back stitch, whichever you want to call it, over his body. I don't know if you can see that. You can certainly see the red lines over this mustardy acid green, but there is also 376 over quite a bit of it, which is a mauve color, and that is harder to see on camera, but it is there. So a lot of stitching in this guy. Thankfully, the lady here, she's very stripy, but doesn't have a lot of back stitch over it, so she won't take as long. And then I know I commented last time I showed this on the stem stitch that is going to be added right here, like under these numbers and the birds. And someone commented that even though there's no diagram in the Alexanders for stem stitch that I can find, somebody commented that there is a stem stitch diagram in Esther Benson. Well, thanks to another stitchy friend, I have this chart, and sure enough, it's in here. And I'll show you guys. It is, the stem stitch is what I thought. Here's the little diagram showing you how to do that. Pretty simple. And the day that I pulled out Esther Benson to check if there was stem stitch diagram in that, I was actually looking at Ann Castle, which is a big, beautiful chart from hats that I want to start later this summer. And look what's in here, stem stitch again. So if you have either of these two charts and you are working on the Alexanders, then you have the demonstration here. Also, there may be something on the hats website about the stem stitch that I did not check. So just having fun with this, making good progress. I think I am about a third of the way done. So this is about the halfway mark at the top, and this is about, a little less than halfway down right here. I think the halfway mark is about right here. So as far as I can figure, I'm about a third of the way through. So I just need to keep plugging along. I got most of this lady done on my trip to the Threadworxs fair. Got a little bit of stitching done in my hotel room, but I just love this. It is intense. There is a lot of stitching in this area because the piece itself is only 215 by 203. I would call that small, but based on the amount of stitching in it, I actually call it a medium-sized sampler. But I'm excited to finish this lady and get to this really big peacock. And you know, these letters here, they look complicated because of all the curly cues, but each letter is done in a single color. So you just load up your needle and go. There are no color changes there for those letters. You just got to make sure you follow the diagram. But it's pretty easy peasy, just a little time intensive. And I should show you, I'm so bad at showing my bags, but the Alexanders has been living in this focus project bag that I got from Barry at Stitch Folk. I think I had in my mind that some other piece was going to be my focus project, but having so much fun with the Alexanders and making noticeable progress on it, this has inadvertently turned into my focus project, and I am not upset about that. I started that piece, I think it was late July of last year, and I would like to finish it before it turns a year old, before that whip turns a year old. But I've also been thinking that as July is coming up, Christmas in July is something that I would like to do. I'd like to get more ornaments done for my tree this year. I also have a couple retreats coming up later this year, and there are just a couple people that I want to make gifts for, and I need to actually set time aside to do that, or they just won't get done because there is no magical elf that's just going to show up in the middle of the night and do that stuff for me, right? As much as we would like. So that is what I have been working on for a good chunk of time since I finished Mary Wigglesworth. But yesterday I pulled out this Amelia Brown. It says with needle and thread, a workshop for Hobby House Needleworks. This is a chart that was given to attendees of a workshop at Hobby House. I don't know when, I don't know how many years ago. A friend gave this to me, so I have the ability to stitch it, but I don't know if and when this will be released by Nicola. But if you attended that retreat, you should have this in your stash. So Amelia Brown, 1885. This is a pretty small sampler. I have shown this before. It's 126 by 171, so not very large, but it has some specialty stitches in it. It has herringbone stitches. I did demonstrate the herringbone stitch on a Stitch With Me video several weeks ago. I can link that below for you guys. I talked about doing a feather stitch demonstration on a video. I ultimately decided not to do that. I didn't get a lot of views on the herringbone stitch video, and I don't know that any more people would need demonstration for the feather stitch. If that is something that you want, let me know and I can demonstrate it on some other piece. But it has herringbone, feather stitch. These are done in eyelets. Most of this is cross stitch over 2. And then we do have some darning patches down here that are kind of woven, if that makes sense. Here is the piece so far. Since you saw this, I have added the line of feather stitch right there. That was fun to do. I don't want to do a ton of it, but I like the effect. And it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. I finished this row of numbers and the wavy line there. I started this alphabet section. I put in that line, brought the border down, and then I stitched 2 of the little patches. Now I think if I go like that, you guys can see the effect on the top block. You see how the green and the red interact together? Now the model was stitched, it says, with soie d'Alger, and I do think it would look better, this block, these woven blocks, would look better with thicker threads. So if I were to do this again, I would get the soie d'Alger or maybe even use the DMC for those woven blocks, because I think because the fabric is showing through that block, it is taking away a bit of the effect that you get from the weaving. But all in all, very happy with it. So I just have 4 more blocks to go, 2 here and 2 there, but then there are some decorative bits in between the columns of blocks, and then her name and the school at the bottom, and then I need to carry the border around. Very simple border too. So this piece just takes 2 colors for most of the piece, and then Amelia stitched just her name in a very light brown color. So 3 colors, but mostly 2 colors. I am stitching this on 46 count Dolly Madison from Needle and Flax, and I think it looks just lovely. I am hoping to get this done in just a couple more days so I can cut that fabric off and use that for another small sampler. But nice combination. I talked about this before. I thought the combination of the red and green was too violently bright, but actually it looks fine. And honestly, it's no scarier than any other sampler. Like Scottish samplers are often bright like this with very violent red and green combinations. So I think I'll just have it framed and stick it next to a Scottish sampler. It'll look very nice. Yeah. So again, I don't know if this chart will ever be released. I know Nicola has a lot of stuff in the works. She showed something on her most recent video. She showed a finish and said, well, don't get excited because this won't be released until 2028, I think she said. What are you doing to us? 2028. I mean, you got to work ahead, right? And she's got a lot of things going, a lot of releases planned, I'm sure. And then she continues to host retreats and teach at various retreats, and she has to have pieces for those events, right? Okay. All right, so that's everything that I've been working on for the last few weeks. And now I need to share with you first StitchCon and then Threadworxs Fair. They happened in that order, so let's just do it in that order. StitchCon, well, I went to weekend A, which is what Jem always goes to, and she was the one who invited me. She asked me to go this year. So I did all the things, and I signed up right when signups opened, whenever that was last summer. I feel like it was a long time ago. And while I had a good time, and I'm glad that I went, I'm glad that I was able to do the thing that my friend asked of me, I don't want to go again. It was, and this is in no way meant to discourage anybody else from going. I have talked to people at StitchCon and since StitchCon, and I know that for many people, it's on their bucket list. And if it is still on your bucket list, if it has ever been on your bucket list, you should definitely make the effort to go, because I know that a lot of people love going and had a great time this year and will continue to go in the future so long as it is held. The reason that I don't want to go again is because after the weekend was done, kind of assessing the experience compared to other retreat experiences that I've had, and also how I have grown and have been able to experience many things, I realized that it's not serving me, that type of retreat. So just a little bit about StitchCon. It is a little over $300 for registration. At least that's what it was last year. I think it was about $310. I don't have the figures in front of me, but I know it was a little bit more than $300. And that has gone up a little bit each year, according to what Jem tells me. And that's understandable. So for $300, you get access to the stitching room. It is a big conference room in the Cincinnati Conference Center. Actually, it's not the Cincinnati Conference Center. I think it's called Sharonville Conference Center. So let me give you the right information there. So you get access to the big stitching room. You get a couple items from the Keepsakes team, so a couple little gifts. And then you get access to what they call the annex, which is a room across from the conference room where they have a lot of shopping set up. They have, I mean, it's not a huge room, but they have charts, they have models, they have some flosses, some fabrics, project bags, needle minders, little, little things that we all love to look at and to add to our stitchy collection. And then you also get the possibility of winning door prizes, and you can participate in raffles and have a chance to win some of their raffle prizes if that's what you're interested in. Well, I don't care about door prizes, and I never participate in raffles. I don't care. And then the two pieces of swag, if you want to call it that we got from StitchCon. One was a bag, which I didn't particularly care for, so I just gave it to a friend who was like, I could use another bag. No, you don't. I have so many bags, I don't need any more bags. And so that went to another friend at the table. The other piece that we got is actually something that I do really like and will use. This is a cross-stitch chart stand, and it is easy to assemble, and it was provided for us by Chantel 141. She was actually at the retreat, and she had a bunch of pieces on display so you could see the various products that she makes and how you can use them for your own finishing. This is wonderful. I used it the entire weekend at StitchCon, and I will bring it with me to future retreats. I think it's great. I have another stand that I use here at home, but it's actually a cookbook stand. It's acrylic and wood, and it's just heavy. It folds up very nicely, but it's heavy. This one weighs almost nothing, so it's great. So basically, moving forward, I know I'm looking at I am going to Stitch North in October, and I know that's another low-cost retreat that doesn't offer activities or classes or lectures or anything like that, and there are no kits involved. It's going to be something kind of like StitchCon, where you pay a small registration fee, and I say small compared to like the Attic or Hobby House events where you're getting a lot, and therefore the cost is a lot. But StitchCon, I think, is going to be, Stitch North is going to be something like StitchCon, but I have at least one friend is going. I get to meet my favorite Canadians. I get to see a bunch of Roxy products in person. And so I'm really looking forward to that in a way that I wasn't actually looking forward to StitchCon. So, and I know that sounds like I probably didn't have the best time at StitchCon because I wasn't looking forward to StitchCon. There may be something to that. But also, I know me, and I know now, having certain experiences at other retreats, what I expect from a retreat and what I want for my money. So all told, I spent a little bit under $1,000 to go to StitchCon between the registration fee, the my share of the townhome that I stayed in with Jem and Connie and Stephanie, food, gas, and other little odds and ends. It came out to be somewhere around $900 to about $1,000. So I am very happy to have spent that $1,000 to experience this once, but I am not happy to spend $1,000 on the same experience a second time, if that makes sense. It's one of those things where I am always up for something once. And so I was very happy to say yes when Jem asked me to do this with her. Absolutely, we'll do it. But, if you've seen her video, even you know that she will not be going back to StitchCon, or at least that's what she says for now. I think her reasons were based on other things. She had experienced what StitchCon had been, and there have been some changes in staff, in energy, in attendance, things like that. And Jem recognize that it's not what it had been to her. And for me, having never experienced it, it's just, you know, I did it once. It was fine. I had a lot of laughs. I got stitching done and I made a friend, but the shopping wasn't particularly impressive to me. Now I recognize that 3 years ago, Audrey may have found the shopping impressive, but 2026 Audrey does not, because of course she has a lot of stash and has kind of figured out what her taste is. Okay, no more speaking in the third person. Although I have to tell you guys, I finished Hercule Poirot. I finished Agatha Christie's, the series Poirot, and I'm very sad. And I think about this because he refers to himself in the third person a lot, and it does not bother me in the slightest. Oh God, I love that show, and I'm so sad that I'm done with it. I need to go back and rewatch it already. Oh, so good. Okay, so that is my 2 cents on StitchCon. Again, do not take this to mean that I am trying to discourage people from going. It's the exact opposite. If you want to go to StitchCon and you want to experience it for yourself, you absolutely should do that. I did it and I have that experience in my memory bank now, and I know that I want to try other things instead. And I am so looking forward to the 2 other retreats that I have lined up for this year. And then I have 1 thing on the books for next year, and then the possibility of a second. I'm excited. So, all right, at StitchCon though, let me show you guys. We did have a table start. So I don't like starting things at retreats. I don't. And I started 2 things there. I did. So there was talk of a table start, and I had been through the annex looking at the various items that they had. And I noticed that they had a really nice display of models from my sister samplers. And one of the models that they had on display was Margaret Allardyce, which is a market purchase that I got earlier this year. Love it. Loved seeing it in person. Saw the model in person, was able to like start doing the 103 conversion in my head. It was great. But another one that they had was this teeny tiny little sampler. And I'll actually insert a photo, if I still have it, of the model in person. It's called Little Lion, again by my sister samplers, and the whole thing is only 106 by 81, and the model there was stitched on 45 count, so it was teeny tiny. And I am stitching it on 46 count Sandcastle from Fox and Rabbit. I had to just like pick what they had there. I didn't bring any extra fabric with me. In the event of a table start, I didn't bring any extra fibers with me. I seriously brought Mary Wigglesworth, a needlepoint project, and stuff for Hawk Run Hollow. That's it. That's all I brought. So this is what I ended up with, the combination. So this is, as I say, 46 count Sandcastle from Fox and Rabbit, and I'm using Gloriana Coral Red. The called for this piece is Salmonberry, which is gorgeous, and they did have that there in the annex, and I was thinking really hard about it, but somehow the Coral Red just got me. So this is what I ended up choosing, and I just love it. Gloriana has absolutely beautiful fibers, beautiful colors. Got a nice little start on that at StitchCon. I think I got about this much done at StitchCon and then added that once I got home. But, you know, this is just one of those things. I need to just go ahead and bring it out. I think my plan over the next week or so is to do the June section on Maria Wales Newson, because I still have not done that. And then to finish Amelia Brown. And then after that, I might just go ahead and knock this out, because I don't think it would take very long. I bet I could do it in just a few days. There's really not much to it. It's really cute and will be so tiny, and I can have that finished into a little pillow. Okay, the next thing that I started at StitchCon, I'm actually just going to insert a photo here of me and Stephanie holding our starts. This is Stephanie of Cross Stitch the Globe. We are each going to work on a Hawk Run Hollow. I have chosen houses, and I believe she is stitching Village. Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we each just got a little bit of the border on one of the boxes done. So that's it. That's all I have for that. Besides the supplies for Little Lion that I purchased in the annex, I also got the latest copy of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. I wanted to get it because it, of course, would have another chart from Teresa Bennett. This would be the next piece. This is Summer Basket, the next piece in her series. This is my version of her Spring Basket. And if you go back to a previous episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago, I talk about the conversion that I did, Roxy Floss Co conversion, and how I changed some things up. This is Summer Basket. So very different than the first one. So there was, I was considering maybe framing all of these in the same sort of frames, but seeing how little this one is, I know now I'm just gonna have them finished into little pillows. But got this magazine and kitted it up. I'm going to use this fabric. This is a nice little scrap that I have left over from a previous project. This is Colonial Green Light from X2 Designs. I purchased it from kittenstitcher.com, actually, which is Teresa Bennett's website. Teresa Bennett, Shakespeare's Peddler, Kitten Stitcher, all the same person. So you'll see samplers published under Shakespeare's Peddler, but her website is kittenstitcher.com. So again, 40 count Colonial Green Light. There is a Colonial Green Dark, and it is quite dark. But I thought this was a nice color. Not at all like what's called for. The called for is Dark Soil by X2. I do have that, but it's 46 count, and it would just be so tiny. I don't need it to be quite that small. So 40 count. And then I pulled Roxy Floss from Stash that I thought worked well together for this particular piece. And I think that'll look just lovely. So this is another one of those things I could knock it out in a day or 2, but I'm trying not to start too many things right now. I want to get a couple more finishes before I add to my whip list, but just love that. And then this was a gift from a lovely lady at StitchCon. She used part of the Keepsakes bag. If you have ever shopped at Keepsakes, you'll recognize that pattern. Yeah, love that. So again, I just want to stress that I had a great time, and I'm glad that I did it, but I don't need to go again, right? I know that after my video talking about my trip to Country Sampler, I got tons of comments like, I'm so glad you had a great time at Country Sampler. But then I got from other people like, I know you didn't like Country Sampler. I know you didn't have a good time at Country Sampler. And I was like, that was not at all the message that I was trying to convey. My problem with Country Sampler, and it's not at all their fault, is that it is inconveniently located to me. And I hate driving. I don't know that I can stress that to you guys enough. So driving 2 hours to Cincinnati, hated it. And it was only 2 hours. So it's just one of those things where like I will do it, and I know it makes more sense than for me to drive 45 minutes to the Indianapolis airport to fly to Cincinnati. That would be just stupid. So I'm not gonna do that. And then driving up to Country Sampler, it was a 6-hour drive, and it was awful. It was awful. You know, it's like I had a friend in the car with me, and we stopped and saw people along the way, and because we were driving, we were able to load up the car with as much linen as we could buy, but I hated driving. So that's it. So no, I loved the trip to Country Sampler, but the reason I said I wouldn't necessarily go again anytime soon is because I'm thinking about 6 hours there and 6 hours back. I don't want to do it. Later this year, I was just talking to a friend about this. Later this year, Ryan and the kids and I are going up to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, which is seriously one of my favorite trips that we have just, it's become this annual tradition that we do. He has a work event there every August, and we take the kids and we walk around the teeny tiny little town and eat too much ice cream, and it's great. Do I enjoy the drive? No. Do I want to be in Elkhart Lake and have that fun time with my family there? Yes, absolutely. So, you know, take all this with a grain of salt. Also, you don't have to take anything I say seriously. I hear from people that I cost them money and I influence them and, you know, I make them buy charts. I don't make you do anything. So even though I don't want to go back to StitchCon, you can still want to go to StitchCon. Even though I don't want to drive 6 hours to Country Sampler, you can drive 12 and go to Country Sampler if that's something that you want to do. So I just want to share my honest opinions and experiences with you do with it as you may. Okay. The weekend after StitchCon was set to be the Threadworxs fair in New Harmony, Indiana, which is 3 hours away from me, and I really didn't want to go. But I'm so glad that I did. I was kind of humming and hawing, and Ryan was like, no, you should go, you'll have fun. And I'm glad that I went. The drive was really easy. It's just the time in the car. Because I don't stitch. I can't stitch when I'm driving. So it's a waste. It's a waste, right? But New Harmony is a beautiful little town. And it really reminded me actually of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, the town I just mentioned that we go to with the kids and stuff. I really like visiting little towns. I don't want to live in a little town. If I had unlimited money, I'd be living in London or Prague or both. But I like visiting little towns. I like going to the local restaurants and just kind of walking. I like that everything is walkable. So I drove down to New Harmony, which is very far south in the state. And I found the granary. I'll insert a picture here. Found the granary where I needed to drop off the items that I was entering in the exhibit, right? The judged exhibits. And then after that, I drove to the little hotel in town and parked my car and didn't have to move it again until I left on Saturday because everything was absolutely walkable. It was pretty toasty out, but it was fine. I dealt. Yeah, so Threadworxs Fair, hosted by Cranberry Bog Cottage, which is a local needlework shop in Terre Haute, Indiana. You can find them on Instagram. And they put together some information about this event last summer. I know it was like back in May, I think it was, that they put together a website and we're talking about the different classes that would be offered. I really hope they host this again next year and then it's like bigger and better even than this year. They got almost 100 entries into the, what would you even call it? The exhibits. You could enter up to 3 stitched pieces across a number of different categories. So of course, because of what I had, what was framed and finished and ready to go, I entered 3 pieces, but all within the historic sampler reproduction category. But there were many other categories, although unfortunately I think at least a couple of the categories didn't see any entries. I don't think there were any entries for the youth stitcher category. And it was so funny, I was talking to Morris, I was like, oh, I should have brought your pillow, but then it would have been the only thing in that category as far as I could tell. I could be wrong about this, but I did go through the exhibits several times just to make sure that I didn't miss anything in the, you know, in the many things that were up and available for viewing. Teresa Kogut was there and she was selling a bunch of her well-known charts as well as 2 exclusives that she had. I will insert a photo of one of the exclusives here. I did not purchase that one, but I did purchase 3 copies of Life, Liberty, and Happiness. Now, this is the Granary building in New Harmony, Indiana. And then Teresa designed this based on that building, and then she added all of this. I am just going to stitch the building, and then I'm going to add some things around it and put it on the top of a shaker box. That's my plan. But I texted one of my friends who I know loves Teresa Kogut, and I said, do you want this? Yes, can you get me 2, please? Because I guess one of her other friends wanted it as well. So when the line for the booth finally died down, oh my goodness, you think Teresa Kogut is popular? Yeah, she's popular. It was such a long line, but I'm glad that she did well because then hopefully if they host this again next year, she'll come back. But when I finally was able to check out, I asked Teresa, I said, can I buy 3 of these? She said, yeah, it's fine. People are buying for their friends. It's no big deal, but I just wanted to make sure. So I sent the other 2 copies off just a couple days ago. So you should have those soon. Maybe today, actually. And then kept this one for myself. But again, I'm just going to stitch the granary. I've got some ideas of some other things that I want to incorporate around on this piece. I do love her little animals. I think Teresa Kogut does animals just about as good as anybody. So cute. purchased that. And then the only other things that I bought actually from the fair, there were several things that I saw that I liked, but you know, you gotta rein it in a little bit. I bought this box. This is made by Eric of Lincoln Trail Woodcrafts. You can find him on Instagram, but he doesn't do anything with his Instagram. It's just there and there's one photo. So Eric, do more. But it's okay. If you like his pieces, you can actually order them from Cranberry Bog and they will ship. You can just call and let them know what you're looking for. And Cranberry Bog does often post photos. So if you see something in one of their Instagram posts, you can call and let them know, you know, I saw whatever it is in a photo and I would like it shipped to me, and they're happy to accommodate. I bought this piece. This is about 4x6. And then of course I went back the next day and I was like, you know what? I gotta have the bigger one, because after I bought this, I had the idea to stitch the granary and mount it on top of this box. And the granary is so big. That thing is like 90 by 90. So on 40 count, it's gonna be 4.5 by 4.5. So it will only just fit on this box top, because I think this is like 6 by 9 or something like that. But beautiful boxes. Absolutely wonderful craftsmanship. And you can see Eric's signature right there, EH, and he gives the size as well, but just beautiful pieces. So I have a few of his now. I have these two, I have one really small one, and then I have a little tray. And then I have actually purchased one for a friend last year and sent that off to her, and she was very happy with it. Very pretty. So got those two. Happy to add those here in the Floss Palace. All right, now talking about the exhibits and my entries, I did get a couple ribbons. The historic sampler, the historic reproduction sampler category was probably the one that had the most entries, I think. I'm not sure, I didn't count. I went around and took photos of everything that ribboned. And what they ended up doing was awarding ribbons and cash prizes to those pieces that took first and second in each category. And in the category that I entered, this piece, Harriet Goddard, this got second. This is stitched on 56 count Shrekie's tan. I don't remember the dyer, but you've all heard of this. I think I know what it is, but I don't want to give you wrong information. And I used the called for 103s, but I also used some Swass Surfine on it because we've got over one here. This is one that I talked when I was working on this, and as I was finishing it up, I talked about the fact that I would not recommend stitching pieces that have a lot of over one on 56 count. And even this, all this dent stitching was a little tiresome on 56 count, but I wanted a teeny tiny finish, and that's what I got. And when I was collecting my pieces on Saturday, the woman who was helping me, you know, take things down, whatever, she commented on how tiny it was, and I was like, that's exactly what I wanted. I just wanted a teeny tiny little finish, and it's just beautiful. So Harriet got second, and then I also brought Hannah Campbell, which you guys have seen. That is another hats chart. And Maria Ewan. This is my favorite piece. Of all the things that I have made, this is my favorite. This and my children. I love this piece, and it was a joy to stitch. Lots of teeny tiny letters. I brought Hannah Campbell because I thought, well, if anything's gonna get a ribbon, it's gonna be Hannah Campbell, because it's got a lot going on and it has a lot of specialties. Well, it has a lot of over one, and then it has a lot of eyelets as well. So I thought for sure, if any of my pieces ribboned, it was gonna be Hannah Campbell. And I was so pleased that she didn't get a ribbon, but this one did. I love Hannah Campbell, but I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's done. You know, and I get to say I finished it in Monaco. That's pretty cool. But she was a pain in the patootie. I love this piece. This is stitched on 45 count Jersey Cream from Legacy Linens with the called for 100.3s, but the over one Lord's Prayer is stitched in Flosstubers, so that is 2523 instead of the called for 523. If you are stitching over 1 on 45 count or up, I highly recommend getting Flosstubers if you can find it in an acceptable color. It will make your life so much easier. Both of these pieces were framed by Lisa Manton at L&M Framing. I've mentioned her, I think, earlier on this video and in many other videos. Again, she's away for the summer and unavailable, but she's definitely, she's such a good framer and so easy to work with. This was one of those pieces that she sent me some options, and I remember all of the frame options that she sent me for this. I was like, I'm not really excited about any of them. I guess I'll just pick this one. And it's gorgeous. I love it. I love it. Yeah, beautiful. And I finished this one back in 2024. So that's one of the reasons I think I need to start Ann Castle, is because I had such fun stitching Maria Ewan on that 45 count jersey cream, and I would stitch Ann Castle on the same fabric. I think Ann's actually bigger and has more specialty stitches, has a buttload of satin stitch. It's got a lot going on, but I think it's going to be just gorgeous, and I can't wait to get into it. So again, I think I'm going to finish a couple more pieces and then start in, well, and do I need to do Christmas in July? I don't know. We'll see. Anything goes around here. I have plans and then they go out the window. That's how it goes. So overall, had a great time at the Threadworxs fair. I guess, well, for one thing, it cost me less because I just had to pay for gas and hotel. So that equaled just about the gas and hotel or lodging fee for StitchCon. So if we're comparing these two events like back to back, so that's a plus. There's no registration fee. The entry fee to enter my pieces was very low, lower than the county fair here. I don't know if this will change from year to year, but I'll tell you that this year it was $10 for the first piece and $5 for the second and $5 for the third piece. So it only cost me $20 to enter those pieces. No big deal. And then I just had to pay for my food, which you got to eat everywhere you go anyway. So what does it matter? And I thought the shopping was better. So there's that. But absolutely wonderful event. And I know that there were many people who went and had a great time as well. And then a lot of people who were not able to go, but are looking forward to possibly being able to go next year. So please, Marilyn, host it again. I don't think she watches my videos, but I did talk to her. I talked to the woman who sort of organized the whole shebang, and I made it clear to her that I had a great time. I was very happy. It seemed like everybody else was happy. So hopefully they'll do it again. Follow Cranberry Bog Cottage on Instagram to keep up to date with them. There is also a Threadworxs Fair Instagram page, and that is Threadworxs, spelled THREADWORXS. I'll put that here on the bottom, and I'll also link it below, so you can stay informed of any progress on next year's event. All right, so I showed you the few things that I purchased there. The only other thing that I have to show you, I've just got one purchase here and then a little bit of Stitchy Kindness. So I got my June pack of one-of-a-kind flosses from Evertote. These are Roxy flosses. And I only have 6 of them here because the 7th is this burgundy right here. This is called Claret. And then these other ones here, this is Maroon 6, Burgundy, Bordeaux, Wine O'Clock, and then this one, I love this, Acid Wash. I'm using that for something soon. And On the Line, a beautiful dusty powder blue. I love how these all come together. When I opened the package, I was like, oh, I don't need any more, burgundy wine colors, but actually they are different than the ones that I have, and I particularly like these 2 colors. Just gorgeous. Yeah. So Carrie continues to amaze. She's wonderful. And then the piece of Stitchy Kindness I got was actually from a lady that I met at StitchCon. Thank you so much, Lisa. Look what I got. It's Lisa. Lakeside. That's Lakeside. So this is 46 count vintage pear by Lakeside, and it is a nice chunk. This is just half of it. So I have enough to do, well, one really long skinny sampler, which would be weird, or two smaller samplers. So what I did after I got this and pet it for a little bit, I went through the samplers that I had, the hats specifically, and I got a couple ideas of things that I could put on this. She was asking me at StitchCon, she was like, well, why did you want that? And I was like, I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sure when I mentioned it on whatever video it was, I had an idea in my head. Did I tell any of you? No. Did I make a note? No, no idea. I think maybe I just wanted it because I wanted it, because I've seen the color and I like it. It's beautiful. So what I have done though, as I said, I went through some hats charts and I got a couple ideas, auditioned some charts, some things that could go on this fabric that I think would be just lovely. So I'll keep you guys informed when I actually make a decision on that. I want to use it. I want to put something on it because I think it is such a beautiful color. But that is all that I have to share with you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. You can also find me on Instagram at StitchStitchBead. You should be able to expect another regular Flosstube episode from me the middle of next month, and we'll see if I start with Christmas in July or if I stick with stitching only samplers. Who knows? Who knows? But thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Happy stitching!